How's it going? David here. Well, it's Friday. That means it's Financial Fridays. Now, I haven't done one of these in a long time, but I figured, hey, I want to do one on this topic and I like ranting. And if you enjoy those two things, then this video is for you. So let me talk about one particular company, Tesla. And I know a lot of people are down and out on Tesla right now. And I'm like, not for me. I've been down this road before with Tesla. So I've done this before. I saw my stock go really high and then go all the way below what I paid for it. And I'm talking, this was like 2019. I've been investing in Tesla for, I don't know, I think 2017 or something. I don't know. It's been a long time. So I'm way up overall. Here's the thing with Tesla. Now, I'm sure half of you guys have already left because you already have your opinion on Elon. So I guess I kind of have to talk about both, right? I can't just talk about Tesla without talking about Elon. So here's my position on Elon. I know a lot of people care about his politics and whatever. I could care less. I don't really care. He can say whatever he wants. Like if you had like he's the type of person that loves to speak his mind and he loves to tweet about things and X about things is to his heart's content. And that is fine. That is not me. That is not probably you, but there are people out there that are like that. And he just happens to be one of the richest people in the world. So it's a very interesting mix. But if you found people like that, there's probably people who have like 5 followers and they X and tweet way weirder stuff and way dumber stuff than that. But no one cares because no one pays attention to him. He just happens to be the most followed person on the planet. So, but he doesn't really care what anyone else thinks. And that's the thing. It's like if you go to someone like The Rock, like he has a ton of followers, or Kylie Jenner, I know they have a ton of followers. People like that, everything they say is so crafted. It is so crafted because they care about their image so much because their money is dependent on their image, right? If The Rock comes out and takes a stance on anything, he knows he's going to alienate people, right? So he will never really take a firm stance on anything unless it's like very like good type of thing where everyone's kind of on board. So he just kind of, I'm sure he has his own personal beliefs, but he doesn't put that out into the world. And that's totally fine. He likes to keep it more secret. But they are built on a brand, on their image. Elon is not. He is built on someone that makes things. And that's what I like about Elon. I like the fact that he makes stuff. He goes out and he goes, why is something a certain way? And then everyone tells him it's because we've always done it like that. And he's like, I don't care. We're going to erase everything we've ever known and we're going to start from scratch. He did that with SpaceX. He would, if you read his book, he would talk about it's like, oh, why is some random way you had to do this? Why is there a certain regulation in place for this? I was like, oh, well, this happened because. And then he's like, okay, find out who the lawmaker would put that regulation and why they put it in there. Oh, they found out it's because of this study. It's like, well, who wrote that study? Let's find the person that wrote that study in 1960 and why they wrote it. It's like, oh, they wrote it because of this old technology. And a lot of people don't dive into why things are the way they are. And so he was just like, I don't care. Let's just do it anyways, regardless of all the stuff. And many times it did not work out in his favor. You know, he ended up putting his foot in his mouth. He ended up like losing a bunch of money by doing things like, well, should have done it this way to begin with. But he learned something, and sometimes it worked out in his favor. I mean, look at the stuff he's created. That's what I love about Elon. It's like he goes out there and creates stuff. He creates things that he sees in his mind, this is where the world should go. And most of the stuff he does is beneficial to humanity in general, right? If it wasn't for Elon, electric cars would never happen, right? They've tried. They tried back, was it the Pontiac? I think it was a Pontiac. There's a documentary about it, who killed the electric car. And I think it was Pontiac. It might have been Saturn. I have no idea. They made an electric car. A lot of people loved it, but, you know, big oil and all this kind of stuff. And the car manufacturers, they didn't want to get involved. And there's like, they didn't really want to push it. They didn't want it. They don't want to advance battery technology way back then. The original cars ran on battery. This is back in like the 1800s or early 1900s. They ran on batteries. But then imagine if battery technology would have continued from then, how great it would be. To me, the combustion engine has peaked, and it's been leveled out for a very long time, decades. That is my personal opinion. Like, it hasn't really gotten much better. Like, for example, my 1995 Honda Civic got better gas mileage than a current Honda Civic now. And here's the thing. I understand it's like, well, you know, it might have a little better horsepower or something. I have no idea. But Honda Civics, the reason why people buy Honda Civics is it's good on gas mileage and they're reliable. That's why you buy a Honda Civic. So you would think over time, they knew this. You think over time that it would just get slowly better at those two things, those core things. No one's buying it because of the speed, you know, or its tow capacity of a Honda Civic. They're buying it because of those specific reasons. Now, they have not gotten better. Nothing's really gotten better. They changed the names. They changed the shell, right? They give you a new shell, so it looks new and fancier, and they give you like a new interior. But really, it's just the same car over and over and over and over again, new shell. So nothing really that much advanced. Not until Tesla comes out. Elon comes out with Tesla. And like, look how many innovations has happened. The whole, I'm not much of a car person, but I know the Cybertruck runs off of, I want to say 24 volts, something like that. And we've been running off, 48 volts. And we've been running off 24 volts since like the 60s. And that really hinders, like everything that runs in your car that's based off of electronics, from the stereo speakers, to the little lights and all that kind of stuff. So that needed to change. And a lot of people were talking about how they wanted to change forever. But of course, the old dinosaur auto manufacturers, they didn't want to change the thing because they're like, why? Why would we change anything? We just reproduce the same thing over and over. We market it, people buy it, and we don't have to do anything. So it wasn't until Elon comes around. And on top of the idea, SpaceX, all these other crazy ideas that he's done, the Hyperloop. He more gave off his patents for that. But the Boring Company, all sorts of weird stuff. Now, obviously, the Boring Company hasn't really done much. I've not really kept up with too much. Has Neuralink. That's insane. But, some of these are going to fail and they're not going to go anywhere. And others are probably going to be like, change society, change humanity, which I think SpaceX and Tesla are going to do. If Neuralink keeps going and progressing, that is going to be a massive change on society and humans. So, yes, he's pushing the bounds. That's why I like him. That's why I like him. I like him because he creates stuff. He does stuff. Not very many people do that and do it as well as he does. Now, you can disagree on his politics and the way he carries himself. But maybe that's the sour that you need to taste. You cannot appreciate sweet until you have sour. So maybe that's just like his thing. That's like the sour that you're going to have to deal with to appreciate all the sweet that he gives you. So that's my personal opinion. Now, why do I think Tesla is a great company? And why do I think it's a great investment? Now, I'm not an investment guru by any means, but I remember hearing about Tesla right before the Model S came out. I'm thinking the Model S came out in 2011, 2012. I remember sitting, and it was my family. We rarely ever get together. We're in a parking lot. I think we were going to eat somewhere and it was closed down. And so we're sitting in the parking lot and we always circle around and then talk. That's usually how my family is. We'll stand in a circle. Anyone that's not part of my family, wives or girlfriends, stuff like that, they call it the circle and they hate it. They hate it with a passion. And they're we'll go watch a movie, but no circling. That's what they call it. You can't circle afterwards because after the movie, we'll circle and just all talk. And I remember my brother telling me about Elon Musk for the first time and Tesla and all this kind of stuff. And now I knew a little bit about EVs, but I was kind of fascinated. And I ended up looking him up and looking up all this stuff. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is very cool. So I got really into EV technology. When I first heard about Elon and started reading about him, all this kind of stuff, and Tesla in general, I was like, okay, this is a great company. I could see this being the future because that's, for me, when it comes to investing, that's what I believe how you should invest. This is my personal opinion. Now, you can invest in today or you can invest in tomorrow. And I prefer to invest in tomorrow. So, that can go, it's high risk, high reward, but I kind of like that. If I was going to invest in today, I'd just stick it in S&P 500 and Apple. They're safe companies. Apple is a fantastic company. It'll probably be here for another 30, 50 years. All giants eventually fall. But I think it's a fantastic company. And, it pays a little bit in dividends too. And that's another thing. If I was investing in today, I'd get dividend stocks and I'd diversify in those things. I have a little bit of that stuff, but most of my holdings is all in Tesla. I also do other stuff. I have real estate. And I also have mutual funds and, crypto and things like that. So it's not just all Tesla, but Tesla is a majority share. And I think you should invest in the future. And you should invest in not only the future that you want, but where the future you think is going to go. And I'll give you an example of this. My brother, when veganism was at its peak popularity, and which was a trend, I'm just going to say, I know there's vegans before 10 years ago, but about 10 to 5 years ago, they seemed to multiply by, 100-fold. So, but I know because I knew vegans way, way back in the day, back in the early 2000s. But they're rare. They're so rare. You barely even ever knew one. You might know oh, a friend of a friend is a vegan, or it's I knew a lot more vegetarians, but vegans were very rare. It's you're a vegan? It's almost finding someone who is a Scientologist or something. Like they're rare. And then all of a sudden around 5 years ago, they were just everywhere. Everyone seemed to be vegan because it was trendy. And all those vegans have since gone away. But during that time, my brother invested in Beyond Burger, Beyond Meat, whatever it's called. It was like a vegan patty, whatever it was. I don't know. And it just dropped significantly. I'm sure they're still around. They're probably doing a little better. They dropped by like 90-something%. Because in his mind, he thought the world, like he was vegan and he thought vegan was the right thing to do. And he thought the world, and where he went wrong was that he thought the world was moving vegan, which no, I'm sorry. It was a trend. In my mind, I think EV is the future. This is where you have to ask yourself. This is the two questions I asked myself about Tesla. Now, I know the stock is down. It's down to like 160 something. And everyone's like, oh no. And I'm like, I've been here before. So doesn't hurt me then. And the way I invest is I invest every single month. So I've been investing every single month for almost a decade, 7 years, 8 years, 6 years, whatever it's been. Every single month I just invest. I use it kind of like as like a savings. I put some in different areas and some goes into stocks, and I invest mostly in Tesla. I just asked myself two questions. Do I think EVs are the future? That's question number one. Number two is, do I think driverless, full self-driving, autonomy, whatever you want to call it, where basically AI drives the car for you, do I think that is possible? Do I think it will happen? And I answer yes to those both two questions. If you cannot answer yes to both those questions, then you should not invest in Tesla. But if you can answer yes to those two questions, then I would definitely consider investing in Tesla because they are the forefront of both those sections, right? If you think the future is going to EV, and this is why I think the future is going to go to EV. Yeah, gas. Okay, you save on gas. What do you do? Environment, sure. If you're one of those people that are really in the environment, like that's a bonus for me. Like the gas in the environment is just a bonus, but it's not the reason why. But the number one reason why to get an EV, number one, and this is the one thing that every single person overlooks. And it's beyond me because this is the type of person I am. Time is one of the most important things. There's one of the most important. It's more important than money. If you have all the time in the world but no money, it's better than having all the money in the world and no time. Time is the most important thing. That's the most important thing. That's the one thing you can't buy. That's the one thing you can't get back. So time. That is why EVs are the future. Because this simple fact, imagine if you had your cell phone right here and every time like this dies, like every night I have to plug it in. Imagine if I had to drive somewhere and charge for 5 minutes and then drive home or drive where I'm going every single time. You have any idea how annoying that would be? We accept it because it's always been that way with gas. That is beyond me. It is so annoying. So annoying. I have to drive to this gas station. I have to sit there and wait as I wait my turn and then get in there. I don't care about the money. It's the fact that I'm driving out of my way. Or it's like I get in my car to go to work and all of a sudden I need to get gas. Oh, I forgot to get gas. It's an annoyance. I hate it. I hate it more than, I hate it so much. Time is the most important thing. So if I can just get home and just grab the little thing, plug it in, and then every single time it's done, great. And then people are like, oh, the range. What if you want to drive far? How many of you actually drive over 300 miles a day? How many? I'm sure there's going to be people in there in this comments, but how many people actually drive over 300 miles a day? Pretty much no one, like next to no one. Probably 99.99% of you do not drive over 300 miles a day. And that's all you need on a single charge. So if you're one of those people, sure, then maybe you should stick with gas. But most people just drive to work and drive home. That is most what people do because they spend probably an hour in traffic one way, an hour in traffic the other way, and then 8 to 9 hours at work. So they have no time to go anywhere else. Maybe if your job is driving around, sure. Time is most important. So if I can just get home, plug it in, and that's what I have to deal with, that's the most important reason to get an EV. You cannot have a gasoline station at your house. You cannot. I'm sure people have tried, but you cannot. But basically having, you can get solar and then it's basically free and you get batteries and all that kind of stuff. But just plugging it in all the time, always charged, never have to worry about going to a gas station ever again. Oh, man. But nonetheless, that is why. So back to, do you believe the future? Now, driverless. Do you believe the future is driverless? So I answered yes to the first one for EVs. I think it is the future. A lot of people probably disagree, but I would gladly eat crow if you came back in this video in like 10 years, if YouTube and, this all exists still, and And you can see that majority of things are going to be EV. By 2035, I would imagine, by 2035, I think that 60 to 70% of all brand new car sales will be EV, if not more. 60 to 7% by 2035, if not more. I think 60 to 70 is the low end. I would go as high as 80, 90% of all new cars. Average car on the road is 12 years old, so that is going to take a while until, it flushes out everything and more EVs, and everything is just pretty much EV. And that's the thing. As more cars, more people buy EVs, Model Y isn't the number one selling car, more people buy EVs, gas stations will start closing down because they won't have as many customers. Once that happens, then gas stations start getting further and further apart off your main drive. So that makes it even harder to get gas, or more inconvenient. So then it'll push more people to go EVs. That's what people don't really seem to understand. As more people go EVs, they start charging at home, start charging at work, charging at wherever they charge. It's going to be harder and harder for gas stations to stay in business because there's not have as many customers. Therefore, they're closed down. So I think we already reached peak gas station a few years ago, if I remember looking correctly. And so that's going to go down. It's just going to be more inconvenient for people. And then it'll just be more convenient to have an EV. And the battery technology will be better, so you'll be able to charge faster, get longer range, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and then the driverless part. Do you think the future is driverless? Yes, I do. I do think that is in the future. Now, a lot of people are like, Elon promised us in 2019 that he'd be able to drive from California to New York and uninterrupted. And yeah, he was very, excited about the stuff that he was learning and doing. And so he probably made a very short-sighted prediction. They're on, every year they come out with a new full self-driving. They're on 12.3 because it's March. 12 years and 3 months. I think by full self-driving 15, 16, I think you'll be at that point. So like 3 to 4 years from now, I think you'll be at that point where it's pretty much nearly perfect. Like most people will drive and never have to touch the wheel. And I mean by most, because if you just drive in a normal city or whatever, you'll be totally fine. But, on different roads, like maybe, out in the wilderness and stuff like that, you probably won't be good. And the problem with this AI compared to any other AI is this has to be perfect. You can have Midjourney, which is the AI art, or Sora, which is the AI videos they make stuff. You don't have to be perfect, right? No one dies if all of a sudden it puts 10 fingers on a hand, right? Or if there's a subtle, an extra little tiny eye that you can barely see in the picture. Like, no one dies. ChatGPT, if it gives you a wrong answer or kind of a weird answer, no one dies. In this, people die, and that's bad. So it has to be not just perfect, it has to be better than perfect. So I think about full self-driving 15, 16, it will be pretty much perfect for your average person like me or someone that lives in like a city and stuff like that. I think it won't be until full self-driving 20 till it's like technically full self-driving where anyone can use it and you won't have any issues. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Go back 10 years ago. Where was it then? Is it better than it is today than it was 10 years ago? Yes, it is. So even if it's incrementally, slowly getting better, just slowly, just tiny little tiny steps. If it's going up at all, if you think it's getting better in the last 5 or 10 years at all, then that leads you to believe that in the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be a little bit better. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's really what it is. Some people might say, like me, I'm like, okay, by full, in like less than a decade, like 8 yeyears. Other people could say 5 years, 3 years. Other people say like 50 years. But whatever number that is, eventually it's going to happen. And if you think it's going to happen, then Tesla is in front of everyone by a mile. So that's why I think it's a good stock. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or disagree with me. I'd love to hear your guys' perspective. Have a great day.